Wonder Woman is the brainchild of William Moulton Marston, a polyamorous feminist who considered bondage and submission to be a respectable and noble practice. He believed that male readers would eagerly become willing slaves of an alluring woman who was stronger than them, and endeavored to use sex love training to condition said readers, concocting depictions of bondage to induce eroticism. In his own words, his Wonder Woman was psychological propaganda for the new type of woman who I believe should rule the world. Yes, a new type of fantasy woman who possesses both the disparaged qualities he considered innate to a woman and the qualities innate to a man. What could possibly go wrong? Wonder Woman has no character integrity. Now, I'm not referring to morality, but rather the concept of her character being whole or undivided. Over time, her peculiar roots were gradually minimized and pursued in a more tactful vein, but the trajectory set by her creator and those who have endeavored to expand upon it has left her with something of an identity crisis. She has two very different origin stories, one of her being a princess sculpted from clay by Queen Hippolyta and endowed with powers from the Greek pantheon, and another of her straight up being the daughter of Zeus. Demigoddess or Princess Clado? The jury is still out. Either way, Greek mythology and all its delightful shenanigans often find their way into Diana's stories, including the enslavement of the Amazons and the sexual finessing of Hippolyta by Heracles. Understandably, that history impacts the Amazons as a whole and comes with about as much emotional and psychological baggage as you'd expect. Except when it doesn't, or isn't even really part of the acknowledged history. If a hero has been around long enough, she is bound to have some variation in her basic stats. Ask Diana how old she is, and she probably can't tell you. Not because women can be coy about such matters, but because she genuinely doesn't know. Her age varies slightly between 23 years old, a couple thousand years old, and 5,000 years old. During that time, or at that time, or before one of those times, she sprouted up from 5'8" to 5'11", and finally to 6 feet 2 inches tall. The frame filling that height also varies wildly from almost girlish to supermodel to quite beefy. She has been incarnated in media by Kathy Lee Crosby, Linda Carter, and Gal Gadot after being unsuccessfully piloted by Adrienne Palicki, four women who, aside from their lithe figures, look almost nothing alike, and none of whom bear more than a passing resemblance to the raven-haired, blue-eyed comic book and animation counterparts. If you put images of two different Wonder Women side by side, you would be forgiven for thinking they were merely besties or Amazon sisters instead of the same person. As Superfluous Man demonstrated, the genre is rife with fluctuations and inconsistencies when it comes to powers, but here again, the Amazon seems to have a greater variance. In some iterations, she can fly, others require her to use an invisible plane or ride air currents, and in the more contemporary films, she uses her lariat to swing and propel herself through the air.
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
How durable and strong she is varies as well. What can harm her and to what extent is not decisively known, with her nigh indestructible bracelets and crazy good reflexes muddying the water further. She may or may not be bulletproof in any incarnation, but if she can deflect bullets completely, it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of emphasis placed on her phenomenal fighting abilities, whether that manifests as fisticuffs with common ruffians that ends with her ensnaring them in her lariat of truth and making them squeal, or hacking and slashing at literal gods with a sword and shield. She was always a specimen, but over the years she's had exponential increases in power and speed. Remember Superfluous Man's crazy list of abilities and how overpowered he seemed? Yeah, well, he's holding Wonder Woman's wine, because let's face it, Boy Scout wouldn't actually be drinking it, not that it would get him wasted anyway, but I digress. While he has beaten her in a fight, and in fact has handily beaten the entire Justice League, she has also beaten him several times and even killed him in a certain timeline. It's a fool's errand trying to figure out just how powerful she actually is, particularly factoring in that her powers skyrocket further if her bracelets of submission are removed and isn't helped by the fickle nature or complete lack of weaknesses and limitations. Heralding back to her BDSM roots, she used to become powerless if bound by a man. This evolved from having to weld her aforementioned bracelets together to simply putting her in handcuffs. Other weaknesses entailed snatching her belt or nabbing her while in her depowered guise of Diana Prince. Nowadays, she doesn't have a discernible weakness, which, as I said, is a good thing in theory because it fosters more situational creativity and better villains. She may have some soft weaknesses like pointy objects, but those weaknesses are super soft. like squishy. Ask a fan if Superfluous Man could stab Wonder Woman, and they'll probably tell you, nay, she's too fast and skilled for him to get a hit in, and even if he did, her swift restorative powers would render the wound of little consequence. So even soft weaknesses are mostly eliminated or mitigated by her other strengths. What makes this detrimental is that she has also gradually lost any semblance of limitations. If you've got a character who is the best at just about everything without any constraints and is devoid of even soft weaknesses, anything goes, and there can be no consistency because there's no baseline on which to gauge it. If Superfluous Man is boring because it's the same 3 notes over and over, Wonder Woman is the cacophony of playing all the notes. There isn't any one particular theme that defines her in a meaningful way. Her fluctuations in power scope and intensity obscure her to the point that she is essentially an ambiguous bomb in a bodice. In terms of her personality, it's also consistently inconsistent. Originally sent from Paradise Island with a mission of bringing peace by dominating men through kinky erotic bondage love, she also has embodied the concept of war. Literally, the ambassador of peace became the actual god of war, albeit temporarily. Of course, why be consistent? She's depicted as being more aggressive and violent than the likes of Superfluous Man, willing to do things he wouldn't in the name of justice. But at other times, she's more genteel and diplomatic with her foes, focusing on that love conquers all paradigm, even when violence might make more sense. Will she tie you up, ruffle your hair, and use her allure to encourage you to do better, or just snap your neck? Speaking of love, even her romantic life can't pick a lane, having been officially made bisexual. Will the narrative place her with one of her classic male companions, or will her affections be drawn to a fundamentally different relationship altogether? I think our boy Billy Marston might suggest a little of column A and a little of column B, simultaneously. Yeah, see? I applaud Wonder Woman for being original. When so many early heroines seemed like little more than female versions of male heroes, she was very much her own creation. However, hamstrung by arguably dubious origins and suffering from seemingly constant alterations to her fundamental appearance, powers, abilities, weaknesses, and even personality, this ancient 23-year-old claymation princess demigoddess may have the most apropos name of all. Fans seem perpetually doomed to wonder what the heck this woman is going to do or be from minute to minute. You know, this endeavor is starting to feel unnecessarily ambitious. We need to trim it down, make it streamlined. So we're gonna bring the list down to a sleek, slim top 5. And at the number 4 spot is Spider-Man. I've decided we'll go boy-girl for some sense of cohesion.